Thanks for joining me again as we look back at another great classic film. This film cemented the reputations of its director as a brilliant filmmaker and its star as a transformational actor. It is filled with iconic characters, powerful scenes, and memorable and often quoted dialogue. It has a great extended cast, many of whom would go on to great careers of their own, and it's set in a much photographed setting which acts like a silent, almost sinister character in the film. It is Taxi Driver from 1976. While developing the script, Paul Schrader was influenced by the diaries of Arthur Bremer, the man who shot presidential candidate George Wallace in 1972, Jean-Paul Sartre's novel Le Nausée, and the Henry Chapin song Taxi. The ending was inspired by Sarah Jane Moore's attempted assassination of President Gerald Ford, which resulted in her appearing on the cover of Newsweek. Schrader developed a growing realisation he was writing about loneliness and our tendency to push others away to maintain our isolation. This was partially autobiographical for Schaefer, who around the time was suffering a nervous breakdown, was basically friendless, was going through a divorce, and being rejected by a girlfriend. He wrote while squatting in his ex-girlfriend's apartment while she was away, had no contact with others for weeks, battled chronic insomnia, frequented all-night pornographic bookstores, and developed an obsession with guns. He was also spending long days alone in his car doing deliveries for a chain of chicken restaurants, which he imagined was like being in a taxi. Originally set in Los Angeles, he moved the story to New York City because taxicabs were far more prevalent there. Schrader made the central character, Travis Bickle, a Vietnam veteran because the social upheaval of the war blended perfectly with Bickle's paranoid psychosis, making his experiences more intense and threatening. Schrader's original characters of Sport, the mafioso, and the hotel clerk were all black, but were changed to white men to avoid perceptions of racism. Schrader also rewrote the character of Iris after inadvertently picking up an underage prostitute. The character of Tom originally had very few lines in the script, but Albert Brooks worked with Martin Scorcese and Paul Schrader in fleshing out the role and was allowed to improvise during filming. Schrader's script clicked with both Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro, though Scorsese first offered the role of Bickle to Dustin Hoffman, who turned it down because he thought Scorsese was crazy. Schrader had written the part with Jeff Bridges in mind, but Bridges was caught up with the productions of Stay Hungry and King Kong at the time. They also considered Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, Burt Reynolds, Ryan O'Neal, Peter Fonda, Al Pacino, John Voight, Robert Blake, David Carradine, Richard Dreyfuss, Christopher Walken, Alain Delon, James Caan, Roy Scheider, Paul Newman, Marlon Brando, Martin Sheen, Elliot Gould, Alan Alda, and George Hamilton for the role. With the strong encouragement of the producers, Scorsese finally decided on Robert De Niro, who, despite having won an Oscar for The Godfather Part 2, was still a relative unknown. De Niro prepared for the role by working as a late-night cab driver in New York, working 15-hour days for a month, as well as studying mental illness and taping conversations with Midwestern soldiers to pick up their accent. De Niro also lost 16 kilograms, listened repeatedly to taped readings of Arthur Bremer's diaries, and stayed in character throughout the production. Angelica Houston, Meryl Streep, Sigourney Weaver, Liza Minnelli, and Barbara Hershey were all offered the role of Betsy, but turned it down. Jane Seymour, Mary Steenburgen, Goldie Hawn, Glenn Close, and Susan Sarandon all unsuccessfully auditioned for the role. Mia Farrow was interested, but Scorsese turned her down. The producers were basically looking for a Sybil Shepherd type, and when they realised Shepherd was available, she was given the role. Harvey Keitel was originally offered the part of campaign worker Tom, but preferred the pimp Sport, even though the character was black and only had 5 lines. When the role was rewritten, Keitel took it and rehearsed it with pimps to prepare. The role of Iris was offered to Melanie Griffith, Linda Blair, Tatum O'Neal, Isabella Gianni, Anissa Jones, Kim Basinger, and Ornella Muti, but they all turned it down. More than 250 actresses then auditioned for the role, including Carrie Fisher, Kay Lenz, Mariel Hemingway, Ellen Barkin, Gina Davis, Brooke Shields, Bo Derek, Deborah Winger, Kim Cattrall, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Heather Locklear, Rosanna Arquette, Krista McNichol, and Michelle Pfeiffer. When Jodie Foster was cast, she was required to complete psychological testing to ensure that she would not be emotionally scarred by her role. Foster later confessed how uncomfortable she felt on set. Scorsese didn't know how to approach her scenes, so De Niro became her mentor and a big influence on her acting career. While rehearsing their scenes at a local diner, De Niro began improvising lines, and Foster soon learned to follow as he weaved back and forth around the original script, teaching her how to effectively build a character beyond the screenplay. Shooting took place on a tight schedule during a heat wave and a garbage strike, nighttime shooting, widespread rubbish, and the bombed-out look of the West Side with its row after row of condemned buildings created the impression of widespread degradation. The scene where Bickle is talking to himself in the mirror was completely ad-libbed, inspired by Marlon Brando's performance in Reflections in a Golden Eye. De Niro and Shepard grew to despise each other during filming, which conveniently added to the awkward dysfunction of their on-screen characters. While some believe the film's conclusion is Bickle's dying dream, Shader states it was a return to the beginnings of the film, as if the last frame could be spliced to the first frame and the movie started all over again, only next time Travis might not end up as a hero. The film has numerous cinematic influences, including The Searchers, The Wrong Man, Pickpocket, A Bigger Splash, Abidjan, and the work of Jean-Luc Godard and cinematographer Raoul Coutard. The film has been hard to categorise, variously referred to as a neo-noir, a vigilante film, a vetsploitation film, and a new Hollywood film of the 1970s. It took $28.3 million at the US box office, making it the 17th highest grossing film of 1976. There was universal critical acclaim for both the film and the performances of De Niro and Foster. Roger Ebert called it one of the greatest films he had ever seen. Empire magazine described it as a vivid fever dream we still haven't woken up from. The movie did, however, elicit some boos when it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. It earned 4 Academy Award nominations for Best Picture, Best Original Score, Best Actor for Robert De Niro, Best Supporting Actress for Jodie Foster, but didn't win. It won a Blue Ribbon Award, a Ho Chi Film Award, was nominated for 6 BAFTAs, winning Best Supporting Actress and Most Promising Newcomer for Jodie Foster, and Best Film Music for Bernard Herrmann. Scorcese won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, a David Di Donatello Award, a New Generation Award, a National Society of Film Critics Award, and a Kinema Junpo Award. The AFI ranked it as the 52nd greatest American film and in its top 100 most heart-pounding American movies. The Village Voice critics poll rated it as the 31st best film of the century. Empire ranked it the 17th greatest film of all time. Time has ranked it amongst its 100 best films of all time. A BBC poll of international film critics rated it the 19th greatest American film. Sight and Sound has named it as the 29th best film in its critics poll and the 12th greatest film in its directors poll. It's been selected for preservation in the National Film Registry, is included on Roger Ebert's Great Movies list, and is one of the 1,001 movies you must see before you die. While the idea of a sequel has been raised many times over the years, it's never come close to being put into production. Lots of good reasons to watch this film. Incredible performances from all the cast, but from Foster and De Niro in particular. The look of the film is otherworldly, not a New York most people would know. The storytelling is both harrowing and compelling, and the violence is confronting but an important and integral part of the story, which is uncommon amongst other films like it. So, what I suggest you do is that you go to our website, find our virtual screenings page, find the link to this particular film, click on it and watch it, and as always, let us know your thoughts about the film and whether you'd recommend it for others as well. And then we're back in the not too distant future for our next classic films review. See you next time.